we can now speak to Sir Terry Waite, who you will remember was the Archbishop of Canterbury's envoy, went to Lebanon to actually negotiate for the release of hostages, and himself was taken hostage. Sir Terry, I think 1,763 days, and I guess you remember each and every one of them. Your thoughts must be with those 199 today.
Well, yes, and this is such a tragedy because in this conflict, the main sufferers are men, women and children, innocent men, women and children. And one has a particular, concern for those who are held hostage. But I'm afraid this situation ought to have been foreseen. I think there's been a lamentable failure by the international community to be impartial in this matter in the past and to really seek a resolution to this problem. It's extraordinarily difficult. I mean, I've been involved in the Middle East, in that situation for many years. I've sat down with the families in Israel of those who've been brutally killed. And I've also been in the Palestinian territory and have seen people in their own villages, their little villages, which are next to a huge settlement, an illegal settlement. The settlement takes the water. The people in the village have nothing. And who has stood shoulder to shoulder with them? I'm not putting blame on people here. What I'm saying is there's been a failure by the international community to really take hold of this situation, to be impartial, because they've played into the hands of Hamas. They've played into their hands. And the Palestinians have backed Hamas out of sheer desperation that nothing is being resolved for them. And constantly they see their territory taken away. So it's not surprising, but it's lamentable. And now you get to the situation where the innocent on both sides, and I stress both sides, are suffering abysmally. It makes me very angry, and it makes me very upset.
So, Terry, one thing about this situation appears to be the sheer number of hostages that have been taken here. Well,
it's a very considerable number, and an attempt to rescue or to release such a large number is going to be extremely difficult. I remember the last time that was successful, to my mind, was way back in Entebbe in Uganda, when there was a large number of hostages taken, Israeli hostages. They were released. But this is a very, very different situation.
Yeah.
As has already been said, there are tunnels, there are places of hiding, they'll be dispersed, they won't be all together. It's an extraordinarily difficult task, and a task that really, if warfare is used, will mean more innocent people will die. We need some way of resolving this. And if you ask me what it is at the moment, I don't know.
Yeah, and we reflect, of course, that Benjamin Netanyahu's brother was involved in that successful operation in Entebbe at the airport. But that begs a very difficult question as to what the Israelis should adopt this time round, because there are those, as you know, who say you cannot negotiate with a body like Hamas. You had to deal with Islamic Jihad in Lebanon. I mean, is there a way through in terms of talking?
Well, I think there is, you see. People have always said to me in the past, you will never negotiate with Gaddafi. He's totally crazy. Well, it was possible to negotiate. But it isn't. Has there been real sufficient attempt to understand the frustration of the Palestinian people? And Hamas now has been allowed to take control of that situation and to dominate that situation. The vast majority of Palestinians, as I know them, do not want warfare. They want to live in peace. But they've put Hamas into power out of sheer desperation, sheer frustration. And that frustration should have been met years ago. We should have been recognized by the international community that this is building up, a powder keg is building up, which one day will explode, and now it has exploded.
Can I ask you your thoughts about the hostages themselves? As I said, you spent 1,763 days alongside John McCarthy, Brian Keenan as well. What will be able to sustain them? Because clearly there are elderly people, there are very young people. We pray and hope they're being held together and the families are being held together. But how do they get through this?
Well, the answer is with difficulty. You have to be able somehow to maintain hope, keep hope alive in yourself. That is all you can do. You've no idea. I mean, I had no idea at all what, if anything, was happening in the outside world.
Yeah.
And every time someone came into my cell, you know, they could have been coming in to kill me. You just have to somehow find within yourself the resources to maintain hope and say, I'm still alive today and I live for today. That's all you can do.
A little earlier, Sir Terry, we spoke to Shaked Haran, who is one of the many families going through this terrible ordeal. 10 members of her family have been kidnapped. Is there any words of comfort you can give today to these families?
Well, I would say everything will be done that is possible to release them. And let's hope it can be done without further bloodshed. Some years ago, I founded an organization called Hostage International, where we do give support to hostage families. And if anybody wishes to be in touch with us, we will be there ready to give support to the family. We have trained people who are ready to do that. But this is a massive problem, and there are more hostage families now than possibly we could cope with. But that's one thing we can do and do constantly and have been doing for the last 30 years.
And that obviously is very important, that people know that others are thinking of them and that others care as well.
Absolutely. And that is quite true. Many people are thinking of them and supporting them. But, of course, that message often does not get through to the hostages themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was in captivity, I had no idea what was happening in the outside world. I didn't know for 5 years, in my case.
Do you have hope for the future? Because we reflect that in I think, 2012, you took the extraordinary step of going back to Lebanon and being reunited or reconciled, I don't know which is the correct term, with your very own captors.
Yeah, I have hope for the future, yes. I have hope, still hope, that the international community, together with the regional powers, will be able to put geopolitics to one side if they can, and deal with this problem in a sensible way. There has to be a resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian issue. There has to be a resolution. Otherwise, warfare will go on for countless year after year after year. And it's really up now to a real determined effort for all parties to be impartial and to try and find an impartial settlement to this chronic problem. That's going to take some doing. It's not impossible. It has to be possible if people are going to live in peace.
Sir Terry Waite, thank you for joining us here on GB News and sharing your thoughts with us and the audience. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.